we're joined by offensive coordinator Nick Sheridan. We'll have Coach just begin with the opening statement about being game week and the excitement about playing Western Kentucky, and then we'll open up some questions. So, Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thanks guys for being here. Obviously, super excited. This is just a fun time of the year. You know, you work so hard, and just really proud of the players and the staff for all the hard work that they put in. And we're excited about the opportunity. You know, against a program that lots of coaches on our staff have familiarity with, and a staff that we have a tremendous amount of respect in. You know, with Coach Helton, Coach Summers, they have other members, other staff that has experience in this league and in other great conferences, and they have players that have played in this league as well. So, tremendous opportunity, tremendous challenge, and super excited and super proud of the work that the staff and the players have put in up to this point. And we know that it's just beginning. So, with that, I'll open up for questions.
So, starting right with Matt.
Nick, I think you were on the 2012 WKU staff that when played Alabama. What do you remember about that week and then that game?
Oh, that's a good question. 2012. I thought there was really great players and coaches here at Alabama that we were competing against, and it was an incredible environment. You know, I can remember, just the songs, the pageantry, the history, tradition. You certainly feel that when you come to a place like Alabama. I can remember specifically hearing Coach Bryant's voice about calling your mom. You know, I remember that being played over the big screen. So it wasn't the most enjoyable day for the Hilltoppers, but our kids battled hard. We had a lot of really good players there at Western Kentucky during that time, and obviously Alabama did as well. So it was an incredible environment, you know, to coach in and compete in.
Stay on the right side, front row with Nick.
Yeah, what would you like to see from Jalen in this first game?
Well, I think all of our players were looking for execution. We're looking for communication, fundamentals, good decision making. You know, playing together and playing with great effort and toughness. And so, I think that goes for every position, and certainly the quarterback's a part of that.
All right, go to the left side, Tony.
Where do things stand right now with the right tackle battle, and just how confident are you feeling about both those guys heading into the game?
I feel very confident in both of them, and you know, as far as what that'll look like to start the game and as throughout the game, we'll wait till Saturday before, you know, we let the opponent know exactly what that'll look like. But they both have had very good camps, have had very good moments, and we're excited about them.
Back row on the right side, Ryan.
Coach, as the fans learn more about you, Coach DeBoer and Coach Womack, what's a tradition that you do before a game? Any superstitions or anything like that? Or do you eat a certain thing, something that the fans will learn about you?
No, nothing super specific other than, you know, hugging and kissing my kids and my wife, and that's really it. You know, that's enough for me. So, nothing. No, nothing that way. I played baseball growing up, but, you know, I wouldn't say I'm superstitious, maybe a little stitious, but that's about it.
Go to the left side, Steven.
Coach, how have you seen the consistency grow with guys like Bubba Hampton and just other the younger receivers, Rico Scott as well in that room?
So ask the question again. I heard the names. Just
the consistency of the young receivers, Bubba Hampton, Rico Scott, how they've grown in that receiver room?
Well, I think they've grown each and every day that they've been here, and that's for every young player, and that's for every, you know, player in our program. We expect them to continue to improve. I think there's a lot of really quality young players in that room, and I know Coach Shep and TG and the rest of the guys, they're pouring into them, and I think that's the challenge. You know, when you're a young player, you know, it's usually not a skill issue. You know, those guys can run and can jump and can catch and cut and all the things that's why they're here. But we're trying to help them just become complete players each and every day. And, you know, the guys that you mentioned, there's others in that room as well that are coming along. And their mindset's been great. Their willingness to work and be coached has been great. And so we expect big things out of, you know, not just those guys, but other young players in that room.
Stick on the right side with Emily Grace here.
Coach, continuing on the wide receiver discussion, what checkpoints do you want to see them reach in game one?
I don't think there's anything specific to them that's different from the rest of the guys. You know, kind of to the question about Jalen, you know, what we're looking for in the first game. You know, we want to play winning football, and I think that comes down to doing the simple things really well. And so for all of those guys, you know, specifically for wide receivers, you're looking for them to line up quickly, you know, execute their assignment as fast as possible, make the simple plays. And, when opportunities for big plays or their talent to take over, you want to see that come out. But ultimately, I think for all the positions, you want to see just simple execution, good communication, good fundamentals, alignment, assignment, technique, those types of things. That's what we're looking for.
Right side here, Charlie.
Speaking of communication, just how have you seen the offensive line come together as a group over the course of 20-plus practices?
I think there's been tremendous growth in that group. I think the leadership there, led by Tyler Booker, has been outstanding. I think the accountability in the group is high. I think there's a lot of pride in that room, and so they've continued to improve and get better. I think the camaraderie and brotherhood in that room has grown. I think you see guys that genuinely care about one another. I think you see guys that are willing to confront and demand each other because they know that they trust those people. They know that each one of them has each other's best interest in mind. And so, there's been a lot of growth, and I think Coach Cap's done a great job, as well as the other young coaches in that room. They've done a really nice job.
Jump on the far left side there.
Hey, Coach, from a health standpoint, can you just give us an update on the status of running back Jam Miller, Jaden Roberts, and other dudes that were just nicked or banged up throughout fall camp? Can you just give us a status update coming to the game?
I appreciate the question, but no. I'll let Coach handle all those questions. But, I'll let Coach DeBoer talk about any of the status of the players. But I appreciate and respect the question.
Let's go stay on the left side. Katie in the front row.
You've been with Kalen at a couple of different stops, and a lot of things people have said throughout fall camp is kind of how steady he is. He doesn't get too up or down, but is there kind of a shift you see in him once game week comes around, or maybe when the season comes around and getting the game plan ready and stuff like that?
Honestly, no. And I mean that in it's a tremendous compliment to him. His attention to detail, his intensity, his focus is steady all the time. And it's a tremendous quality in a leader. In a person, and so no, I don't. We don't get to game week and then all of a sudden you see a different person. Not at all. His attention to detail is year-round, each and every day in all areas of our program, and so maybe your focus shifts to different parts of what you're responsible for relative to schematics or putting together a game plan, but the attention to detail is steady all the time. In all areas of our program.
We have time for another one or two questions. If there are any out there. All right, Coach, good. Oh, do we have one? Katie, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, Jamie.
Hey, Coach. Saban on game day talked about how he visited the second scrimmage, and he said the culture is still the same right now as it was when he was coach. Can you describe the culture here at Alabama?
Well, I think it's one that's, constantly evolving with each new group of players. I certainly think, I appreciate Coach saying that. That's important to us, and we have a tremendous amount of respect for, what he did here and the standard and the expectations that he's created along with the other former players and former coaches. I think it's evolving with each group, and so I think each step along the way, you learn more and more about your team and your unit and your position group, and I think we'll learn more about this group of players after the first game. You practice so long, and I think sometimes you learn more about your team after one game than you do after 30 practices. And so what I would tell you is that it's an unselfish group. It's a group that cares about one another, has tremendous pride in this university and this football program, and they want to do right by each other and the fans and their families. And they've been working extremely hard for this opportunity. And so we're really proud of the players. It's a great group of kids, and they come from great families, and we're really lucky to coach them. Okay, roll Tide.
Coach make an opening statement. The excitement of game week being here and facing Western Kentucky, and then we'll go ahead and take questions after that. Coach?
Yeah, excited to finally be in game week. Obviously, it's been a whirlwind 8 months for our guys. For us as a coaching staff, a lot to get done, and what 8 months may sound like a long time, but it's a very short window to get all the things you need in order to get a football team prepared to go execute on on Saturday. And so, I think Coach DeBoer's done a really tremendous job just preparing our guys through all the situations, getting our guys prepared for all the things that they need to in order to execute and maximize their opportunities. I think from a workload standpoint, our strength staff, our training staff has done a really tremendous job navigating our guys, getting them ready for fall camp, and then getting them ready here for the season. I think, the days leading up from the last scrimmage that we had, whatever that was, a little over a week ago to where we are right now, we've done a great job of managing their bodies and getting some of their legs back and all those things, and still being physical and keeping the main thing at the same time. And so here we are at game week, and we've got a little bit of a jump on Western Kentucky than we would on a normal Monday, which is really nice to kind of ease into to that first game plan and let our guys get a feel for how we run scout teams, how we game plan. Most of our off season is spent on teaching the guys from a defensive perspective. We teach them the defensive concepts. We never teach them exactly what their job is. We talk about the bigger concept of the defense. This is how we play cover 3. This is how we play cover 1. Now here's your role within the framework of the defense. Here's how teams are going to attack us in these coverages, the weaknesses, the strengths, all those things. Then we talk about the situational application. Here's how cover 3 or this call is applied on 3rd down versus the red zone versus 2-minute when they need a field goal and 2-minute when they need a touchdown. Those are two totally different scenarios, and we apply our concepts differently. But now the majority of time will be focused on offensive recognition, and I think that's where we have done a great job over the years in getting our players to play defense with anticipation, whereas defense is inherently reactionary. We're starting to get our guys to understand those formations, those concepts that will happen in downs to downs where a guy can make a difference in a ball game. And so our players are leaning into that really well. We've got some very smart young men on defense, some guys that have seen a lot of ball, some guys that have not seen a lot of collegiate football, and I think our leaders are doing a really good job of kind of setting the tone of what those scout periods are supposed to look like. So it's game week. We're ready to roll.
Thank you, Coach. Let's start with left side, Chase.
Coach, wanted to ask you about communication in the secondary. Malachi Moore being a veteran in the middle of the field, how much has he been able to lead the secondary in that respect? And other than Malachi, who are some of the best communicators back there?
That's a great question. Well, when you have a guy like Malachi Moore, you really set the standard in terms of the leadership. I think when you talk about leadership and being a person that emulates what it's supposed to look like, right, leading by example, he is one of the hardest workers that I've ever seen in practice every single day, whether it's a workout, whether it's a walkthrough, whether it's a practice. He really sets the standard of what it's supposed to look like, down in and down out, play in and play out. When he goes to the sideline, he's constantly communicating with other guys on the defense about what we need to fix, what we saw out there in real time. Him and Deontay Lawson, I think, are truly special communicators that have had a lot of experience in this defense. But when you add guys like Jihad Campbell, who have been here, but maybe have not had the rep base of experience like those guys, I think he's done a tremendous job. But particularly on the back end, I think Keon Sabb has been phenomenal. His ability, I was so impressed even with week 1 when he got here and we started doing some little walkthroughs and meetings and all that kind of stuff. His retention of our defense, and now he's starting to play with anticipation. He's communicating at a high level, and if you can keep up with Malachi Moore, I think that's a pretty great job there.
Stay on left side, Tony.
You've got kind of an interesting case with TJ Finley. This will be his 3rd time playing Alabama with his 3rd school, and then you also faced him at South last year. Does that affect the way you scout him? And then having seen him before, what does he offer as a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when a player has had experience, right, playing against the team, right, there's a certain level of comfort, especially if you've been in a stadium or whatever that may be. But then, when you've faced a guy, you've seen in real time how he responds to success, how he responds to adversity. Quarterbacks are so much of what progression does this quarterback go through? What is his pre-snap routine? What does his cadence look like? And so getting to see some of those things in real time, right, has, certainly helps. I would say it probably helps on both sides in some ways. But really impressed with him a year ago. I thought, he's got a really good release. He can make all the throws. I thought he did a really good job of managing their offense really well. Took what was given early, but can work through a progression. And so it'll be interesting to see how, Tyson and their staff utilizes him maybe different than what G.J. Kinney did or the Auburn staff before that or whatever it may be, right? But I think he's got a skill set that you can utilize in a number of different ways. And then, he's a big son of a gun, and so he's a guy that can fall forward, right? And if he does, he's going to go for 3 or 4 yards just getting downhill. One of the things that we really lean into are what are their, escape styles. He may have a very different escape style than what we've seen from Ty Simpson or Jalen Milroe, and those are things that we want to get our guys very clued into as we're getting ready to match these guys up from a personnel standpoint.
Jump to the right side of Charlie.
Just what kind of progress have you seen from the cornerback group as a whole from practice 1 through now, I guess 21 or 20? And then is that a group that you can maybe envision playing multiple guys at in game 1?
Yeah, I think I think Maurice Linquist does a tremendous job, and he's done a tremendous job with those players. You look at it, whether they're guys that have experience in college football but did not play here at Alabama, or they're young freshmen. I think everyone that in that room is trending in the right direction, and that to me is a great indicator of tremendous coaching. I think it's also a tremendous indicator of young men that have an opportunity and are trying to make the most of their opportunity. And so, when you got guys like Damani Jackson who have played, the game, but he's learning a new defense, right? He's learning a new culture, a new system, a way of doing things, right? I think he has really taken to that. I've seen great leaps from him. Deshaun Jones has really done a tremendous job in a short amount of time. I think from when he got here to where he is right now, just physically, I think he's changed his body. You often don't see that from older players, but I think his body has changed, and that's a credit to Dave Blue and our strength staff as well. But those younger freshmen have been really impressive to me. When you look at guys that are, all 3 of those young freshman DBs, right, should have still been in high school this spring. And what was impressive to me is when they would make a mistake, they would work to correct it and often would not make it again. I think each one of them have taken a major step forward through the offseason, through the summertime and into fall camp. And so you're going to see a lot of them play. And so I think it's something that's really exciting. I've said this before, experience is finite. Sometimes we're going to have to go through some of those adversities, right? You're going to take your lumps every now and then as a young freshman. But what I've been excited about is those guys have shown that when they do make a mistake that they can get it fixed moving forward. And if they'll do that, they'll continue to elevate their game throughout the season.
Stay with Nick up front right here.
Yeah, I believe, was it 22 that you faced Western Kentucky at South Alabama? I mean, what stands out about their offense and the challenges there that they do?
Well, I've always been impressed with Tyson Helton, with Clay Helton. I've gone against those guys. They really kind of come from the, all of those guys. Brom, Jeff Brom and the Petrinos and some of what they do schematically, I think is one of the better offensive systems in the country right now. They do a really good job of attacking you vertically down the field, but they take easy access throws as you give them in the passing game. They're creative in the run game. They're not afraid to run their quarterback and get in some of the 1+ offensive game as well to create, extra matchups and extra numbers at the point of attack in the run game. And then, I think, they're creative guys. I mean, they They're going to utilize tempo to their advantage. They do a really good job of working formations in and out of tempo, a lot of different formations and nuances that maybe you haven't worked that you got to be able to fix in real time in a game. And then, you see all types of tricks. You see all types of different shots and stuff like that. I think, they're aggressive play callers, and I think, it's something that's I've seen them over the years, and it's really admirable, right, the way they go about things, and it's impressive how aggressive they are in certain areas. So we'll have our work cut out for us. This is, you can say what you want about a group of 5 versus power 4 matchup, whatever we are now, but this is a very dynamic offense, and they will challenge us in a number of ways schematically. So we'll have our work cut out for us.
Stand on the right side, Matt.
Have you utilized Brian Ellis at all, given his experience working with Tyson on that staff?
We're gonna utilize all the resources of our program and personnel and people and experiences that they've had to maximize our opportunity for game day.
Go to the left side, Steven.
He had to wait his time, Coach, but what impresses you the most about Q Robinson as one of those Wolf guys?
Yeah, I think, Q has been here a long time. He's worked his tail off day in and day out. He's a guy that has, has probably had the majority of his role on special teams, but when he's gone in, he knows what to do. I think he has elevated his game from a production standpoint on defense. I've seen some really good things from him in terms of not just being a guy that knows his job, but knows how to create in the backfield and create in some of the things that we're doing with him in pass defense as well. And so I've been really impressed with him. He's a great leader, steady presence out there on the field, and he works his tail off. And so he's another one of those guys that's a great example bearer of what it's supposed to look like, and he's not afraid to have the the uncomfortable conversations, the challenging conversations with somebody that he sees that may not be holding the standard the way that he knows it's supposed to be done. So that cannot be undervalued with especially a younger defense as we have here. So.
Jump to the back row on the right, Ryan.
Coach, a good question was asked to Coach Sheridan about the steadiness of Kalen DeBoer. You've coached with him as well. When game week comes around, what can you tell to the fans about what kind of coach he is on game week and how that leadership is helpful come Saturday?
Well, I think one of the things that has always impressed me about Kalen is whether you're game planning or you're hanging out on a back porch in a pool, right, or you're in the fourth quarter in the middle of a big game, he's the same guy, and that is a superpower. It really is for him. The way in which he is able to keep the main thing amidst all the noise is something that I think has served him really well as a head coach. It's served him well as a coordinator. And I think our players lean into that humble confidence that he shows in those moments. You don't take the Alabama job after Coach Saban if you don't have a certain level of confidence about you. But there's a level of humility that he carries himself that I think, Greg Byrne made the perfect hire, in terms of what Kalen brings to the table for this team and carrying on the legacy that, that certainly Coach Saban has said, and then other greats before him as well. And so knowing that was a huge reason of why I wanted to come here. I loved my opportunity and loved my time at South Alabama and enjoyed being a head coach. But I think some of those things, right, being in the foxhole with him and seeing the confidence that he carries day in and day out was something that I wanted to be a part of his staff here as well. And so excited to go through the foxhole again with him.
We got 3 more questions left. We'll start with Katie on the left side.
I know this time of year there's always excitement about it being the first game, but when it's your first game at a new job, whether it was when you were a head coach at South or now as a coordinator, is there kind of like a different anticipation or nervousness, or do you get to a point in your coaching career where there's not really nerves anymore?
No, I think there's always nerves, to a degree, right? You're always, it's like getting ready for a big trip with a family of 5, right? 3 boys. What did I forget? What did I miss? You know what I mean? Did I pack everything the right way? I think you're trying to go through those checklists, make sure that you did all the right things, and then it's game day. It's exciting. One of the fun things about college football is that you only get a small amount of opportunities to show all the work that you've put in year round, right? So we put all this work in, we put all these man hours in, all the time and energy sacrifices that we make away from our family for 3.5 hours, right, of getting to show what really what we have to show for ourselves. And so from that perspective, right, it's exciting. It'll be something that our players are chomping at the bit. Our coaches are ready to go. But I would say, I feel in my element as a coordinator. I loved, my time as a head coach, and I enjoyed that as well. But this feels very familiar to me, and something that I just enjoyed calling plays. It's probably one of the things I missed the last 3 years, is not getting to be the play caller on game day, and I am looking forward to doing that again.
Finish Kennington in the front row, then we have Emily Grace.
Kind of continuing the question about Q Robinson, what have you seen from the entire Wolf room from practice 1 to this point, and what do you want to see out of them on Saturday?
Well, Christian Robinson, I have known for a number of years. He's worked in this system before. He worked at my dad, coached the linebackers alongside with him, and so he knows what the standard's supposed to look like schematically in our defense, and the versatility that Wolf position brings to our defense as well. I've been really impressed with that group as a room. I think they all have versatile skill sets that we're going to be able to utilize in different ways schematically. Personnel groupings that we have on the field, right? You may see multiple of those guys at different times in the games, depending on the situation. And so their ability to do multiple things from a mental standpoint and then from a physical standpoint will allow us to utilize them in a number of different ways. And so I think Christian's done a really good job of getting them prepared for that, and I think those guys have really leaned into that process as well.
Emily Grace, last question.
Coach, what are some qualities about your defense that you learned during fall camp that you need to see translate on Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, one of the things that we always look for is there is an energy that you have to play the game with from a defensive standpoint. There's a certain level of juice. There's a physicality that the game is supposed to be played with from a defensive standpoint. I think when you turn on the tape, and really watching as a head coach the last 3 years has only solidified that in my mind of how the game is supposed to be played defensively. When you turn on the tape, it is evident that those guys play at a fever pitch or they don't. And we always want to be the team that when you turn on the tape, right, we are playing a swarm defense mentality football, right? 11 bodies that are responsible of stopping the offense, whether run or pass. They're playing with tremendous effort and finish. That's 4 to 6 seconds from point A to point B with violent intentions when we get there, right? And that needs to show up on Saturday. So those are the things that I think I've seen from them. They took it to another level. I think in the springtime, you're still learning this defense. All the nuances are complicated and some of the things you're still thinking about. But I saw them kind of kick some things into gear as we went through fall camp and probably finished in that last scrimmage in probably as good of a place as you could ask for right now. So, but we got to go do it. We're going to take some lumps, right? Those things, adversity is going to hit and they're going to happen. But how we respond to it, and if we can keep the main thing, which is playing with tremendous aggression, I think we're going to be fine on defense here. All right, thanks, guys. Roll Tide.
All right, we are now joined by head coach Coach DeBoer. We'll have coach make an opening statement, and we'll go ahead and get questions.
All right, good morning. Finally game week. So I'm sure just like everyone across the country and our fan base, our players are excited. So they've put a lot of work in. The thing I guess I'm most impressed with is just how they've sustained a high level of energy, not just the first week or the first 2 weeks. They've really sustained a high level of energy, focus, all the way through camp. And, Saturday was, I think, a great example for us. Had a great practice, just a lot of, just get to work. The same thing I would expect tomorrow, but you kind of get that week out and things like that. And I was just really impressed with our guys' mindset And yesterday, again, just getting the guys together and getting their workouts and just the film sessions and just the level of attention to detail. They're excited to play and excited to hit someone else. Really looking forward to this Saturday against a Western Kentucky team that, coached by Coach Helton. A lot of respect. I know our staff has a lot of respect, both sides of the ball, myself included. We know Coach Helton's done a great job there at Western Kentucky, as well as the rest of his career. Going to be, a great football game. Got a coach with a offensive mindset. I think defensively we got to make sure we're aware of what they're going to do to attack us. And there's a lot of questions, I think, in both sides of the ball, all phases, especially the first game. Depth charts and things like that. You just pretty much looking at a roster and trying to place all the transfers and all the guys that are returning, especially on their team, trying to place those into spots that you might expect and figure out the numbers the best you can. So looking forward to another great week here going into the game, and excited about it where we're at. So questions?
Start with left side, Chase.
Coach, at your introductory press conference in January, you mentioned you were asked about the offensive system from Washington, and you mentioned that to some extent you also need to play to your personnel. Going into week one, to what extent have you had to adjust what you did at Washington to suit the personnel you inherited?
Yeah, I think every year. It isn't even just about one school to another. I think it's the roster you have. And each year that gets tweaked a little bit. You might be running back, with a little more depth, or tight ends, is your one of your key areas. I think we're very balanced across all of the skill positions. And then, of course, you look at your quarterback, you look at the strength, what you can do offensive line-wise. And so it's never exactly from one year to the next, even if there's a lot of continuity, because you're going to lose someone. So there's certainly some adjustments that Coach Sheridan, our staff, has done in really working with the personnel. So, that will continue to evolve as the season goes along. You have guys that continue to improve, especially younger guys or guys that are kind of taking those next steps. They'll make those big steps, and you'll really incorporate them, and it might be a package at some point that they're incorporated in, and then all of a sudden it's something where they're a regular player and maybe even a starter.
Go back row right, Jamie, and we'll go to Ryan right after that.
Hey, Coach, what do you get first game jitters about?
Well, I talked to the team, and I think what it really comes down to, are you asking specifically for me? I don't know if you get like jitters, but I think it's good to have butterflies, right? It's good to have like an excitement, just excited for the week. And, we talked to our guys about, whether it's nervousness or anxiety, butterflies, that's not a bad thing, because it means it's really important. It means that they've put a lot into it and they want to perform well. I think it always comes down to your preparation. And if you've prepared the best you can and you're ready, and more than your opponent, and done everything possible all week long, as well as your teammates. And when you're prepared well, you're going to be confident, and that's the whole key. That's the whole key, and it just doesn't start this week. It's something that's been ongoing since the day the staff got here, since the first day of workouts in the winter. There's just a mindset that's been and happening, and we talk about creating an attitude, not installing special plays that help your attitude. You create an attitude all year long. And so, if you're anxious and things like that, it means you're a little bit unsure. And so I really, I'm excited about the way we've prepared. And so, it's going to be important to these guys. For me, I think it's just a matter of making sure, again, I'm prepared with all the things, whether it's the schedule leading up to kickoff, whether it's just making sure, all the staff is aligned with our communication and how we want that to flow, that our guys understand, all the little details, especially a first game. We've gone through that over the last couple of weeks with little mock games and mock Saturdays, and talked about the hotel on Friday and Saturday, what that's all going to look like. We kind of wrapped that up on Saturday with some final things in the stadium, just on even which sideline and where the benches are and who's sitting where. And we've talked about the tablets and all that kind of stuff, and the coach-to-player communication. There's a lot of new things even this year that are specific to college football, but obviously there's even more when it comes to a new staff and just everyone being on the same page.
Coach, piggybacking off of that, a two-parter, just to be a part of a Saturday in Tuscaloosa. You were at the spring, but it's obviously a lot different. How excited are you and your family to be a part of that? And I asked Nick as well, do you have any traditions that you do before a game, something you eat, something the fans will learn more about you?
There is not a lot. Pretty boring, probably that way. Not a lot of things that I feel I have to. I mean, it's all about the schedule, you know. And the schedule, I guess, would probably be the thing I feel the most strong about. That you're eating within a certain time frame before the game, and you know what that morning walkthrough looks like, and kind of roughly when that is. It changes if it's a morning game, afternoon game, evening game, but you know. I also want to hear what our players have done, and so there's a couple things, you know, on Friday that we'll tweak maybe from what I've done, and it's really I've been okay with it at other places. It's just a matter of, you know, those teams didn't want to do some of those things. It might be when you do your chapel, you know, when you know the other activities. Do teams like go to movies and things like that on Friday? So. A lot of those things, I think, from team to team, it's always different.
Back over to the left side, Tony.
Nick Sheridan said you were the one that asked for an injury update. Do you have specific updates maybe on Jaden Roberts, Jam Miller, and Jeremiah Alexander?
Yep. Jaden and Jam, I would expect to practice and be ready to go. And then who's the third one? Jeremiah. Would not probably expect him. And I know, you know, you guys have seen him and just know the timeline, but he'll be close. He'll be close.
Emily Grace, back right.
Coach, this time a year ago, you were prepping for your first game at Washington, and now you're here wearing crimson. What's the most important thing that you've learned about yourself in the last year or so?
I think you just always are confirming the things that you believe in, whether it's football related, whether it's just you know, staff related, and how you bring a team together. You just always trying to adjust and evolve, but also confirm the things that are like your real deep beliefs. And a year ago, you know, a lot of those things continue to just be verified. And as we bring it together, you know, you kind of look to those things and are counting on those things to help build this team and what we're trying to accomplish here at Alabama.
Charlie, on the right side.
Hey, Coach. After the first couple of days of camp, you spoke highly about the steps that Jalen Milroe took. Just how have you seen him maybe continue on that trajectory over the course of the preseason?
Sure, he's been consistent, you know, and that's what I think one of the biggest qualities that you can have is consistent. You know, obviously you want it consistently at the highest level you possibly can, but I'd really, you want to walk on the field, and this is for any player, but I think this is something that Jalen's done a better and better job of since we've gotten here, and it's, you know what you're going to get when you get out there. You know, whether it's the attitude and the effort. You know, again, the play on the field. You know, there really haven't been some crazy highs or crazy lows. I think he's just continuing to build, continuing to work with his guys, whether it's the offensive line and the communication and making sure he's on the same page with maybe protections, you know, run checks or whatever it might be, the receiving core on timing of routes, you know, a lot of communication. I think he continued to grow and evolve, you know, as well. So the consistency, you know, I really have an appreciation for what he's done. He's been really patient going way back to the spring on letting us, you know, just put the offense in the progression that we're used to and the things that we see. You know, you always see things that you want to get in, and these are the things that you did really well, and we get to those. But there's a progression with the teaching that's happened, and I just appreciate the patience he's had from the very beginning when we got here on getting through all of it and now being ready to play week one.
Time for a few more questions, starting with Steven.
Coach, can you speak on just the consistency of Caleb Oldham as a complete receiver?
Yeah, Caleb, I mean, you know, as a young guy coming in, he really, you know, turned our heads, I know, this spring, just because it felt like he was always lined up in the right spot and never did see him overwhelmed physically with his height. You know, there was times where he actually stood out and made some really big plays and continued to do that. going over the top of guys is something that, is going to be, a great value to our football team, not just this year, but in the years to come. So he's just been steady, that's a great quality. And I think he is someone who really, looks at things and learns from his mistakes, obviously, but also learns from others. And so got a great want to about him. He really wants to do big things, and each and every day puts in the work. So I'm proud of what he's done up to this point. You put him out on the football field, and you aren't really like looking at him worried about, man, does he know what he's doing? That's not the case with him.
Question standing up all the way in the back.
What will you be thinking about the moment you walk out of the tunnel at game time on Saturday, knowing this is the real thing?
Yeah, I think when it gets to this now, you're in, game mode. And as much as this is a different setting for me, this is another football game, and every game is really big and important. And so you're in game mode, making sure, again, all the kind of the things we had talked about earlier, the communication's all in order, and the teams, what's the coin toss and how are we operating there, just all those little steps that you take. I can't say it's going to be that much different. I think the spring game for me probably is one of those moments where you have some perspective on, how far we come and as a team and where we're at. But this is about, playing our game and doing what we need to do and making sure we're at the highest level possible.
Go to Nick on the front right, then we'll wrap up with Katie. Go ahead, Nick.
You mentioned the helmet communications. What are you telling your coaches, and what's your approach in terms of not overwhelming with information, but presenting enough information?
I thought they've done a really good job the last couple weeks. Really, the scrimmages, we really tried to lock in on, the times where, just what's this going to feel like? And there's two major scrimmages, but we scrimmage and move the ball a lot against each other, offense and defensively, all through fall camp. And so the just trying to really hone in on that one thing that might be something you say or nothing at all, and trying to learn also when you talk to especially your quarterback, what's he remembering, is it worth saying it at all? I think a lot of times it's probably just gonna be worth coming on the sideline, but there are some, I think, key things where you can get something to him right after a play, about the situation, that you might be going into, or something that maybe just happened that as maybe there's a delay in the game with officials and things like that, to where you might be able to get a few comments and thoughts in. So I think our staff, especially obviously we're talking about Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, I think they've done a great job really trying to really refine how they want that communication to happen, and working closely with those players who wear the communication, the devices in their helmets, really, what do you like, what don't you like? So game happens fast. I want to make sure that these guys are able to play fast. The preparation, again, throughout the week, the preparation we've had all fall camp, that's what these guys got to really rely on for most of what they're gonna get. And in between series, hey, we'll talk all we want. The tablets, all that kind of stuff comes into play, and really be ready to go out for the next series.
All right, Katie.
Nick Saban said on ESPN this weekend that when he watched the second scrimmage that it looked like the team still had the same culture from when he was here. Just kind of how do you think you were able to accomplish that, and how much of that was the returning players kind of trying to, and you said when you got here at the standard as Alabama, how were the returning players kind of helpful in keeping that same standard?
Yeah, well, I think Coach certainly pushed that standard each and every day, and fortunately we have a lot of guys who understand what that's supposed to look like. And it's great that we have those leaders, our players. We have some staff, with a few coaches that were here with Coach, and they've continued to just be front and center in leading the rest of the guys that are new to the program or new players that have come in. And it's something I know we care for a lot with the culture of our program. It's an important deal to me. And there's a style of play that wins football games, and that's really what we're focused on. But there's a lot of details and a lot of things off the field that are really important to playing at the highest level and being this program that's been at that level for so many years, so many decades. So, but yeah, I appreciate those comments from Coach and that perspective.
All right, thank you. Coach.
All right. Thank you. Roll Tide.